2 books this week. Yeah, things happened. Hi guys, it's Steffi from the Novelty Corner. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm here to do my weekly wrap up for the week of August the 20th to the 26th, and this week I read 2 books, which is not my best reading week ever. I think perhaps maybe I was in a little bit of a reading slump after reading No Limits and then marathoning The Defenders on Netflix and then being challenged to watch Black Mirror by someone at work. So yeah, it's sort of been one of those weeks. I have to admit, while I enjoyed the books that I read, you know, it took a lot of effort to get through them this week. So I don't really 100% know what's going on. I suspect it's just being slumpy and wanting to do other things like rewatch 2 seasons worth of Daredevil and then watch Jessica Jones again, because that's what The Defenders put me in the mood to do. But I haven't done that yet. Who knows what the state of the next few videos will be. I also went out quite a bit, so excuses. I'm allowed to have excuses, aren't I? But I'm also allowed to just read whatever I read in a week. And I wasn't actually entirely sure that I was going to finish these 2 books before today when I had to film. So I'm actually pleasantly surprised that I did. Otherwise this would have been a really interesting video. Anyway, I digress. With those 2 books I read a total of 749 pages, and it brings my yearly reading total up to 180 books. So I mean, I can't really complain. I'm doing pretty well for the year. The first book that I read this week was Because You Love to Hate Me, which is 13 Tales of Villainy, edited by Marie and written by a whole stack of authors. This copy of the book was sent to me for review by Bloomsbury, so thank you very much to them. On balance, I'm going to say that I gave this book a 4. For those of you who aren't familiar with it, it is a new release book that has a whole stack of short stories written by authors based on prompts by prominent booktubers here on YouTube. Each short story is followed by a short response / essay from the booktuber who provided the prompt. And I'll be perfectly honest, most of those did absolutely nothing for the book. The short stories, however, there were some really good gems hidden in there. It will come as no surprise to anyone that my favorite of them was V.E. Schwab's story about death. I think it was just the poignancy and the topic, because death as a character or as a concept is something that, I don't know, it innately brings out a curiosity in me, as well as this feeling of impending doom, because, you know, everyone is going to die at some point, but that idea of you never know when it's going to be, and this concept of death as a character who walks through the world and you can't see him, that sort of stuff really intrigues me. And I think she wrote such a beautiful story. It was beautiful and creepy and sad, and yet there were moments of joy in it. And I love V.E. Schwab's work. I think I like the way she writes. So I knew going into it that I was probably going to enjoy it, and I did immensely, but I also just liked the story. I don't watch all of the booktubers that are featured in this book, but of the ones that I do watch, the story that I think most matched the prompt or the booktuber who gave the prompt was the one that Regan from Peru's Project suggested, which was an Earl Queen retelling set in 19th century London. I could imagine Regan talking about this as a book on her channel, so that one I felt really matched the booktuber. Other ones that I really liked Marie's story on the twist on Jack and the Beanstalk and on the Giant. I also really liked Cindy Pond's reimagining of Medusa. The others, they were good, I enjoyed them, and they were all about 3 stars for me, but those ones that I just spoke about were the top stories for me. There is something that I would have preferred in terms of publishing this particular work. The way that it's set up, you have the short story, then you have the prompt, then you have the booktuber response. I actually would have preferred to have the prompt first so that I knew what sort of story I was getting into, because I was constantly having to flip forward to find the prompt to know what story I was reading. I could have just used the contents page, but having the prompt at the start just makes it easy to track as a reader, I think. So I think that was a really strange publishing choice, but you know, that's cosmetic details really, and I'm not so lazy a reader that I'm not going to skip a couple of pages, find the prompt and then go back. But overall, 4 out of 5 stars on balance. Some of these were definitely 5-star read short stories, some of them were not. Definitely worth picking up if you enjoy villains. And I'm really annoyed because I've got one light set up and I was using natural light, and now the natural light has gone away and I can't really be bothered setting up my other light. So yeah, maybe I'll change the angle. Okay, this is gonna have to do for now. I've only got one more book, we'll be fine. Okay, so the second book that I read this week was We That Are Left Behind by Lisa Bigelowe. Again, this was sent to me for review, this time by Allen and Unwin, and this is a historical fiction book set during World War II in Australia, more specifically in Melbourne and in rural Victoria. It tells the story of two women who are living through the war. First one is May Parker, who is married to Harry Parker, who is a naval engineer, who is posted to the HMAS Sydney whilst May is heavily pregnant with their first child. A few months after becoming a mother, May discovers that the HMAS Sydney has been declared missing, and it is how she copes with life as a woman who doesn't know whether her husband is still alive or not, and how she deals with being a parent and how she deals with surviving in a world that she never foresaw. The second story is that of Grace Fowler, who is a country girl who has moved to the city in hopes of becoming a reporter in a time where female reporters, if they're lucky, are relegated to the women's pages. She begins as a secretary for one of the editors and then slowly works her way up. Along the way, she meets her boyfriend, Phil Taylor, who also works at the newspaper with her, and he is posted overseas to cover the war effort, and she discovers that he's been captured during the fall of Singapore, but he's still alive. This is really the story of how she finds her place in what is ostensibly a man's world, how she works her way up through the reporting ranks, and how she deals with the aftermath of Phil's return home from the war. This is a story of hope and how these women survive in the face of really dire odds. If you've watched my channel for any length of time, you know that historical fiction is not my main genre. It takes me a while to get into these books. I did give this a 4 out of 5 stars. Lisa Bigelow's writing style was really lovely. I am participating in a blog tour for this in September, so stay tuned for that on my blog. I'll leave all the links down below. And those are the 2 books that I read this week. So maybe, hopefully, I'll read some more this week, but I also need to keep watching Netflix, so who knows? Let me know in the comments, what have you been reading this week? Have you read any of these books? Are you planning on reading them? Let me know. I'd love to talk to you about them. I hope that wherever you are in the world, you're having a wonderful day. Hopefully next time I will not have such terrible lighting issues, and I will catch you guys in my next video. Thank you so much for watching. Bye guys.